Welcome to Scintille. Scintille, a first aid channel to support Italian contemporary culture and art. I am your host, Antonella Russo, and I declare to have no conflict of interest and that I make no use of AI to write text for this program. Today we have a special program and a special guest. This is an episode that deals with copyright, a very thorny issue for all of us content creators and also all people who use internet. It is about how to protect our intellectual property, our photographs, our art, our text, and our memories. As I anticipated, I have a very special guest. I'm very honored to introduce Alan Douglas Coleman, the first photographic critic ever. So he's the founder of a relatively long lineage of photocritics. He is the initiator of photocriticism, as he started by writing for the New York Times and contributed over 120 essays. And then later, he also wrote for the Village Voice, the New Yorker Observer, and numerous magazines, monographs, which were translated all over the world. In 1974, he was named as one of the top 100 people in photography by the American Photo magazine. He is known for his books, many of which I have studied back in my graduate students' years, and I want to mention them. Light Readings, Photography Critics' Writings, 1982. Critical Focus, Photography in the International Image Community, 1996. Digital Evolution, a very important book, Visual Communication in the Electronic Age, 1998. And Depth of Field, Essays on Photography, Mass Media and Lens Culture, 1998. Since 1995, Coleman is the director of Nearby Cafe, an online magazine. And I want to thank you very much for being here and talk to us about this topic that produces lots of anguish to all of us web workers. That is to say, how to protect copyright. You recently mentioned that there is a way out, there is a tool, there is a hammer to fight back the stealing of our images, of our work. And I would like you to tell us about this tool, which is Digital Millennium Copyright Act that you mentioned, and your own happy story with it.
I'd be happy to do that. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act was enacted in the U.S. and it's U.S. law, so it only really covers situations in the United States.
Yes.
But there is, as I understand it, a European Union equivalent, which is called the EU Copyright Directive, or the DSMD from 2019, which is approximately the same
Yes.
law
Mm-hmm.
that would affect people in the EU. There may also be some other laws in individual countries or outside the EU in the US, South America. I don't really know about that.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, the law in the US works as follows. I'm going to try to avoid anything technical. I've been publishing not only my own material online, but websites online since 1995.
Yes.
So I'm a webmaster in addition to being a web content producer, and that's led me to become familiar with the law that covers copyright issues for material online. So the DMCA was enacted for two reasons. First of all, to protect the host platforms from litigation.
Yes.
If they inadvertently hosted copyrighted material. At the same time, it requires them to expeditiously remove copyright material when that's brought to their attention.
Yes.
So it works in those two ways primarily.
Yes.
It's especially effective because when you file a DMCA complaint, you're not filing it against the offending webmaster or the offending person. You're filing it with their server, with the host platform for the infringing material. And it enables, basically, they're required by law within, I think it's 72 hours to ensure that the material is removed. So basically, it's as if you're running a store, the infringer is running a store, you're reporting to their landlord.
Yes.
Telling their landlord that they've stolen your property.
Yes.
And your landlord is now forced to deal with that theft. So it's very powerful in that way because the individual infringer, if you approach them one-on-one, and I have done that, that's usually my first step, is to approach the author of the blog that's stolen my material or the head of the website that has taken my material and say, please remove this. And usually that works, by the way. I've had very few situations where a simple complaint has not worked. And that's usually also advised by people. It's the easiest way possible to get work removed. If they are stubborn, and there are such cases, and they say, well, it's fair use, or simply, I don't care whether you object or not, I'm going to do it anyhow. Those are the situations where I use the DMCA because it is very powerful, because it not only most likely will the platform host is required by law to forward that complaint to the infringer with a notice saying, take this down in 72 hours or else, takes this down immediately. The platform host might decide not simply to remove the infringing material, but to take down the entire site. And they sometimes do that if the material is not removed expeditiously. So it's very possible that if you've stolen someone's intellectual property and you get a DMCA complaint and you don't remove the material, your site could go offline.
Yeah.
Your whole website could go offline. And getting it back online then is a tedious and difficult procedure because then you've got to persuade your host, your server, your ISP, that you don't have any more infringing material there, that this was a one-off incident, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very powerful tool, and I would assume that the EU equivalent has equal power.
I'm not law expert and less copyright expert, but from what I know, UE legislation is also delegates to the country, and Italian law has something that is garante della privacy, someone that guarantees our privacy, and it's a gray zone for us, who is the one that guarantees our privacy. So it's a bit more complex. Actually, much more complex than that. But
so in terms of personal experience, as I say, in most cases, this has been resolved by my simply sending an email to the infringer saying, I see my material at your website. What permission do you have for this, etc. This is my copyrighted material.
yeah.
And then they have often said, well, we thought it was fair use. I don't know if you have this concept in Italy, but
it's called fair use in Italian too. In Italian too.
It was fair use, and I would say, well, fair use allows you to take a paragraph or two paragraphs, but it doesn't allow you to reproduce an entire essay.
Yes.
And so they say, oops, we're sorry, and would you let us be here? And I'd say, usually I would say no, but you could put in a link to this material at my website.
Yeah, sure. But let me ask you something. How did you detect that there was one site stealing, using your material? And what, this is number one. Number two, and what if there are more sites using your material?
Well, first, to answer the second part first, it's perfectly possible that there are more sites using my material that I don't know about, especially given the possibility of translation.
Yeah.
So I don't have any real sense that I have been plagiarized, for example, which would be use of the material without my name attached to it, which would be very hard to detect unless I would actually do kinds of content searches, But once it's translated into another language, it's be very difficult to detect.
Absolutely.
So it's possible. No such incident has come to my attention, is all I can say.
Yeah.
In terms of how I found things, sometimes I visit sites and other sites I find that are content aggregator sites, and I find, oh, look at that, there's an essay of mine there.
It's me right there. Yeah.
It, which doesn't happen often, but happens sometimes. And some people have a very, let's call it a loose understanding of fair use that says basically anything they find online they can use,
They can use
no
that.
matter the amount of it, etc.
Yes.
And the answer is, well, no, that's not true. You're not a scholar. You're simply taking my material and putting it at your website.
Yes.
The most egregious instance that I experienced was a website put up in 2005 by the Los Angeles gallerist Paul Copaken,
Mm-hmm.
who handles a lot of very high profile photographers.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across his site because I periodically, to answer, go back to your question of how I find things. Periodically, I do a search for my name, like in Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever,
Yeah.
and just see what comes up.
Yes.
And so I find things that surprise me often. And what Copaken had done, he had built an extensive website with material from not just from me. Well, he handles dozens of high-end photographers,
Mm-hmm.
and he had taken material from myself and perhaps a dozen other of my colleagues
Mm-hmm.
and put it online, full texts of reviews and profiles, and put it online at his website. There was roughly a book-length anthology of writing about the photographers
Mm-hmm.
that he covered, probably 30 to 40, maybe 50 essays altogether, including about a dozen essays by me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And to do this, none of my material in any case was online. And it was clear that what he had done was he had taken printed copies, printed texts from magazine articles and newspaper articles that were in his files for these photographers.
Mm-hmm.
He had had them scanned and converted via OCR, optical character recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And they're digitized in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then put those digitized versions of our printed articles online with our names,
Mm-hmm.
and basically using this as promotional material for the artists that he handled.
Yes.
And the Digital Millennia Copyright Act enabled me to get my articles taken down overnight, basically.
Uh-huh.
That's the most serious infringement that I've experienced. Let's call it 10 to 12 articles of mine in one place
Yes.
at one time. Some websites actually have a DMCA complaint information built into their
Yes. Mm-hmm.
we call it boilerplate, into their, how to contact us, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to search online to find that out, but it will give you the URL.
Mm-hmm.
It'll simply give you the URL at which to file a complaint.
Okay.
Some websites will actually tell you exactly the form in which to submit a complaint.
Okay.
But that form is taken basically from the DMCA regulations. So if you look at the DMCA regulations, tell you what you have to include. You have to include the infringing URL, including web address of the infringed material. You have to include a description of the material. You have to verify that you are the copyright holder.
How do you
or
do
that
that? How do you do that? How do you?
You simply say, I'm the copyright holder.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm the author of this material.
Okay.
It's not a complicated legal procedure.
Okay. Okay.
You're
Okay.
simply stating with your signature, you're going to sign it with a digital signature,
Mm-hmm.
which can just be your name,
Yes.
but you're going to say, this is my material, or I represent this artist. I had one experience where a colleague of mine, a friend, a photographer, had a picture of his illegally
Yes.
used at another website, and it bothered him. And he contacted the person, and the person basically said, "Fuck you." And well, basically, excuse my
That's okay.
rudeness.
You're French.
So my friend said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Well, you could use the DMCA." And he said, "Alan, I'm not web savvy. I have a website, but somebody else built it for me. Can you do this for me?" So I said, "Send me an email, 2 lines, I authorize Alan A.D. Coleman to be my agent representing my online
Yes.
material, period, right?
Yes.
So he made me his agent thereby. And so when I did a DMCA takedown notice, called a takedown notice, when I did a DMCA takedown notice to this guy's
Yeah.
server, I said, I'm the designated agent. Here I attached the email. It's not a court proceeding where you're going to have to prove things, really.
Okay. Okay.
The DMCA is on the side of the content producer.
Okay.
Now, there is the option for the infringer to say, well, I'm not infringing because I have written permission from the artist to do this, right? Whatever. So they can respond, but in most cases, they're infringing. They know they're infringing. Their landlord is basically telling me, I'm going to close down your store unless you take this stolen goods out.
Yes.
They take the stolen goods out.
Do you think that this Digital Millennium Copyright Act can be somehow has been helpful in dealing with big tech like Meta, Google, YouTube, where you basically have to give out the right to own your material?
Well, it's obviously complicated if you put material online and surrender rights to it, then you're no longer the copyright holder.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, Facebook, etc. They basically require you to surrender the rights. So it becomes much more difficult. I haven't had that direct experience, so I can't speak to it in terms of handling it. But I don't know how you then go about getting something removed if you have put the material there. But if someone has put your material on Facebook, for example, then they are still responsible under the DMCA.
Okay.
If your copyrighted material has been illegally or without your permission posted at Facebook, the DMCA still works.
Do they ask Facebook? I mean, who is responsible for the infringement?
Facebook has its servers, and I'm sure they have a DMCA compliance address, email address to which you would send a complaint.
But you don't have any experience with it.
I'm not on Facebook myself, but as far as I know, nothing of mine has been illegally appropriated.
Okay, and not even on Instagram? Do you have material on YouTube?
I have a few things on YouTube, a few videos on YouTube, and I have a YouTube channel where I aggregate other people's material that involves me. But I have posted very little. I have posted very little of my own material on YouTube.
How do you protect your material, your work? Because YouTube is immense.
Well, that's very difficult. I simply accept YouTube's terms if I put anything up there.
Yes, of course, everybody has. I'm wondering, could there be a solution to this, how to say, big scam, big stealing scam? Maybe you can ask a House representative to pass a law that imposes an income for content creators. So in such a way that all the creators who post on YouTube, on Instagram, etc., their own work, their own ideas can get paid because it is used by this big tech, no, and who gain lots of billions of dollars. And my assistant was telling me that in Ireland there is something like this for artists, that they get a little income for their work, for what they post on Instagram.
Well, it works differently because it's about artist production. So artists that create culturally relevant pieces can get a sort of income and allowance from the region, from Ireland. And they do this to sort of make the artistic community grow. But it would be interesting if content creation could be treated with the right relevance, since there are a lot of content creators that right now are not rightfully compensated for their work, for example.
Not at all.
Or not at all. And it's interesting because these big platforms like YouTube or Instagram wouldn't exist without content creators.
Exactly. exactly.
So it could be interesting
I mean,
talking about a law
Yeah.
that recognizes that kind of work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's very complicated. It's very complicated to get that kind of law passed. I'm
Yes.
excited to hear that the Irish have managed to do it,
Mm.
but the complexities of a law like that are huge, and getting it passed would be
A revolution.
you'd have to be in a calmer political environment than our political environment for that to be anybody's priority. Let's put it that way. My belief is that yes, there should be that if your work gets used, there should be compensation for your work.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have made it a practice in my own professional life to accept virtually every request or opportunity to publish my work because I want it in front of the widest possible audience.
Yes.
And at the same time, I've always made sure that at least whenever possible, there's at least some token payment
Yeah.
for the use of my work, even if it's $25. I mean, just as a symbolic gesture to signify that this work has value.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you don't get to say, well, I'm giving you a platform, and therefore, you should be grateful and give me your work for free. So I believe that artists should be paid when their work is used. With that said, especially in the arts, there are many, many situations in which basically I provide my services for free or certainly at huge discount simply to support the community, the creative community that I work within.
There is no way to support just the artist community because it goes through YouTube, and YouTube is planetary.
YouTube is a gigantic octopus, mega corporation,
Yes.
and they don't deserve my sympathy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
At the same time, how to get a law passed in the United States for YouTube content creators getting compensated, that's, we would say, way above my pay grade.
Yeah, but still we can just put the idea out, and maybe
we can put the idea out, and we can certainly endorse the belief that it should happen.
It should happen.
That if you are bringing revenue to YouTube in any way, shape, manner, or form, some little trickle of that should come down to you.
Yeah.
Just clarify a couple of things before we pick up again. First of all, I checked, and yes, the DMCA does apply to pirated material at Meta, at YouTube, and so you can file DMCA complaint against social media, TikTok, what have you, if your material is pirated. But it only covers copyright issues. The DMCA only covers copyright issues. So if it doesn't deal with the fact that let's say Facebook requires you to give your copyright over to them. That's a separate set of problems.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that there is an organization called the World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, or WIPO. And many countries are members of this organization, including the US, and including, I think, the entire EU. And they create treaties concerning intellectual property among their member nations.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was created in part as part of the US obligation, WIPO. And I assume that this EU copyright directive that I mentioned was also created to basically say to the EU members, now you have to do something to conform your country's laws to this treaty that we have all signed onto.
Not so easy and not so fast.
Right.
So do you think there is a way to, at least to attempt to fight back?
If you're asking, is there's a way to stop them from demanding copyright,
yes,
or to share in their profits?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't know.
I really don't know how that happens, because they have such power and such volume.
Yes.
That on one hand, it seems obvious that they could afford to share.
Yes. Yes.
And on the other hand, I don't know how you would force them to share, and I don't think that they're going to share voluntarily.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. That's for sure.
And I think that part of their answer is, well, we give you the opportunity to monetize your material.
Yeah.
We provide you with a platform with which you monetize your material. Isn't that enough?
No, because we have no control on it. You
But then their answer is, but we told you that when you signed the
yes.
contract.
Yeah, it is your fault.
Right. It's not your fault. It's your responsibility
That's
then.
your
You
responsibility.
you said okay. I don't have that. I would be surprised to find that I had an answer to this very, very sticky question.
Absolutely. Nevertheless, maybe we should start to pose the question. And maybe we
Absolutely.
start to build also a consciousness that we give away, lots of our work. To build
Right.
this consciousness, maybe elaborate kind of strategy to get out of this catch-22.
Well, I think part of the problem is that creative people are by definition givers.
And
They are makers and givers.
yes,
They are not by definition takers.
yeah.
And therefore we have, I don't think of myself as an artist. I'm a critic and historian, but I'm in the creative community. I don't really have a taking mentality. And so it's difficult for us and for the compensation that's due and to really assert our own value and to fight for our own value. This is a challenge, I think, for creative people everywhere, because the impulse is to give. That's what we're doing with our work, is making something that didn't exist before for other people, not for
Yeah, but we
ourselves.
also have to make a living.
But then you have to develop a business mentality, and that's a challenge. And historically, almost by definition, most artists are bad business people, at least post, let's say, 19th, 20th century. I mean, there are some artists who are fantastic business people. Jeff Koons, right? There are people who built whole industries around themselves.
Yes, yes,
Andy Warhol.
yes,
But there are many who are not good business people,
yeah.
and
Maybe
also
they don't want to. They don't want to. They just want to live out of their work and not to starve, because that's
and
also.
they want the money to come in without them asking for it. Basically, they want the compensation to come in without asking for it.
Yeah.
That's problem number one. Problem number two, we have a phrase in the United States, herding cats.
Yeah, okay.
You know this phrase?
No,
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't know it.
Okay. Cats are very hard to herd. Yes,
Yes.
notoriously. And organizing artists
Mhm.
to fight for their own rights is like herding cats.
Okay. I mean, there is a difference between a bohemian artist and Andy Warhol, and
Yeah, of course.
not many artists want to get into this neoliberal, neocon society, and want to just be paid fairly for what they do, and just compensation, not to feel strangled,
Right.
not to
Right.
feel victimized, like by this big tech, these people that have no face and come and steal, and you have to. They're really thieves. And I wanted to ask you, in the last 5 years, AI, was it an evolution of digital photography? And what happened to photography, to analogic photography with the advent of digital photography?
The key change, as I see it, the real core issue is that up until the advent of digital photography, photographers were both image makers and object makers.
Yes, yes.
You could not make a photograph in the analog era,
Yeah.
or still can't make an analog photograph without making both an image and an object, a thing. Now, that thing might be a negative and a print from the negative. The thing might be a one-of-a-kind positive, like a daguerreotype or a Polaroid.
Yes.
But you inevitably made a thing.
Yes.
And digital imaging allows you to make an image without making an object. I mean, you could say that isn't that file on your thumb drive an object? And I suppose in a kind of a technical sense, it's a kind of an object, but you can't hold that object up and look at it separately. So it severed object making and image making. And I think that's important, because the digital image is simply a series of ones and zeros
Yes.
when you boil it down.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
It's binary code.
Yeah.
And it can be altered.
Yeah.
You can't really alter a negative or a one-of-a-kind positive without the alteration being visible. You may have to take a magnifying glass to it. You may have to take a microscope to it,
Yeah.
but you can't alter the image on a negative without leaving a trace of the alteration.
Yeah.
But you can alter the digital file.
Yes.
And it will be undetectable. So the use of the photograph as a kind of evidence, as a kind of documentation,
Yes.
becomes very questionable as soon as digital imaging comes in, because you become reliant on the word of the photographer that they have not in any way altered the file or in any significant way altered the file. And of course, we have now famous cases of, with World Press Photo taking away awards because it turned out that files have been altered beyond a certain permissible correction of lighting and things like that. So that shift from analog to digital begins to put the credibility of the photograph in question.
Yes.
As an authentic document that references something that happened out there in the world. Now, AI, for me, is quite possibly the death of photography. I have a comedian and late night host over here, a social commentator named Stephen Colbert, Colbert. I don't know if he is familiar over there.
Yeah,
but for many,
I do it.
yeah,
I haven't had the chance to look at it lately.
Okay.
Yes, I know.
Well, for many years, he ran a show called The Colbert Report. In which he impersonated the typical American right-wing commentator.
Okay.
And in the first episode of his show, this was a weekly show, in the first episode of his show, he introduced a concept that he called truthiness.
Truthiness. Yes.
Which differed from truth.
Yes.
Truth is fact-based. Truthiness was you felt like it should be true, even if there was no evidence to support it.
Yeah.
So, building on his concept of truthiness, I would introduce the concept of photographiness.
Yeah.
And what AI gives us is the promise of photographiness.
Yes.
We would like it to be a photograph, even if it's not, because it appeals to us for whatever reason, because it's attractive or because it
does it
conveys something that we would like it to convey, but it doesn't really do that, but we would like it to. So it has photographiness.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main gift to photography of AI, is that it enables photographiness.
Okay. Most of the commercial AI photography, I find it awful. Impossible to look. It's so perfect that is ugly, redundant. Maybe the only use that I see for AI photography is architectural rendering. When you need to render, maybe that can be useful, but it has to be declared that is AI made. This was made with AI, like with the same with writings, with songs, and has to be declared.
I would certainly like to see a big AI watermark on any AI
Absolutely.
image, let's say.
Yes.
And I know that there are now various laws and regulations being enacted at universities, etc., or at various websites where your content is AI generated. You have to declare that.
Yes.
And even if you've used AI in making it, you need to declare that. And I think that's good, but I think that AI is a tsunami.
Absolutely.
And I think that tsunami is going to overwhelm these barriers that we are trying to put up to protect ourselves from it. Given the speed at which this evolves, I don't know that we can legislate and regulate fast enough to control what's coming.
And we will have to. I think.
And while I agree with you that a lot of the AI photography I've seen is not credible, let's say, it doesn't really look photographic enough, give it 3 years. 3 years from now, you won't be able to tell.
Terrible, no?
There are already experiments in documentary photography. There's a British photographer and conceptual artist, Philippe Toledano, who has done, this is in my bailiwick, in my purview, because I've been involved for the past 14 years in investigating Robert Capa's D-Day photographs.
Yes, yes.
And Toledano has done an AI simulation of the supposedly lost roll of film from Robert Capa's D-Day coverage.
Yeah.
And it is credible. It doesn't look particularly like Capa's work. It's full of historical inaccuracies, but it is credible. It's a kind of generic combat photography. I think you probably scraped, David Douglas Duncan and, half a dozen others from that era and asked for pictures on a beach,
Yeah, and put them together.
in 1944, and he got what he got.
Yeah.
But the point is that they are plausible as photographs from that period, and that's only going to get better or worse, actually. I mean, they're only going to become more plausible, is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
As the sophistication of the technology evolves and develops.
Yes, I don't know. I hear that there are young people are somehow rejecting going back to digital or to analogic photography in the US. Certainly in Italy, there is a more than perplexity. There is a rejection of some sort.
I've read about that. I've read that there's now a nostalgia for and a usage of old digital cameras, for example.
Yeah.
Which because the digital artifacts are fashionable.
And it's good news, no? Good news. Not nostalgia, not for nostalgia, but just as a way to, push back this huge invasion, because it is an invasion. Commercials, all encourage you to use. On your phone, you get the little thing like the circle.
The apps with the filters.
Yes, and they say, why don't you push? Why don't you use? Like it said, why don't you use AI to call your friends? No. Why don't you use AI to write? No, I have to say no. But it's really invasion.
Well, I would hope that there would be a pushback against it, but I don't know. And I'm glad that there is a pushback against it, but I don't know if that pushback is going to be sufficient to overcome the what I'm calling this tsunami of AI that is here, because among other things, there's just so much being invested in it, including government money being invested in it.
Yes.
And not only in AI, the technology, but in all the supportive technology and invested in data centers.
Yeah, but here in Europe, we talk about a big bubble. All this investment on AI technology is just one of the big bubble that is being constructed.
As we say, from your lips to God's ear, I hope that this bubble bursts and that AI goes away, because I don't see the benefits. I mean, I understand what people think are the benefits, but I don't see the benefits, and I don't see the benefits for us culturally. I see some benefits for us in terms of medicine and science and so on. Apparently, there are mathematical problems that are being solved by AI that have plagued mathematicians for centuries, right?
Yes, apparently, who knows?
Yeah, and I suppose that I would qualify that as a benefit. But does that benefit outweigh the fact that if I call my physician, I get an AI person? Hi, can you tell me what your problem is? And I have to deal for 15 minutes with an AI intervention
with the bot
before I talk to my doctor. Have I saved my doctor time by doing that? I certainly haven't saved myself time by doing that.
Yes.
So I don't know. My fear is that this could have devastating effects, and I'm leaving aside the whole issue of climate control and water usage and electrical usage and data centers. Just the fact of AI itself replacing human intelligence.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I find it very disturbing, philosophically disturbing, morally disturbing.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. for your precious thoughts and very generous. You kept up with the spirit of your nearby cafe. That is to say,
Oh, thank you so much.
to serve the photographic international community. And I hope to talk to you again soon, sometime.
Anytime, anytime. Happy to be here and happy to take part.
Thank you. Thank you very much.